Doug, as this General Assembly begins with Joe Biden's first speech to the body today, is it really a coincidence that the U.S. also just lifted its travel restrictions on foreigners, particularly EU citizens?
Look, the timing probably isn't a coincidence. The EU has been less than happy with the state of affairs where effectively there's been a travel ban on Europeans visiting the United States, even as U.S., up until very recently, were able to, with almost very few restrictions, come to Europe. So it was a very sort of one-sided affair. So this is a way, in a sense, for Joe Biden at a time when, as we just heard, the submarine deal, France is fuming over it. Europe is more or less on France's side, although Europe itself remains divided. But this is a way for the U.S. to try to assuage, to calm things down, among the Europeans, and to show that it's trying to do at least something, to act in good faith, to try to smooth things over diplomatically. That said, as we just heard, it's going to be a very heavy lift. The you could say the Europeans are sort of half on board with their solidarity for France. Some countries still see the U.S. as a very solid umbrella, Germany among them, but also other countries for various reasons, such as Hungary and Poland, for their own reasons, have always seen the U.S. as a bulwark against more looming and important threats, namely coming from Russia. So Europe is not fully with Macron on this, even if they're giving lip service to France's sense of outrage and indignation at this deal falling through. At the same time, right now, you have a situation where Emmanuel Macron is officially fuming. He's not attending this UN summit, and we don't really know what the state of affairs is, even though they're sort of set to have some talk with Biden in the next few days. Whether or not that will happen, let's stand and see. Meanwhile, it's his foreign minister who's going to be, doing all of the heavy lifting at this UN General Assembly.
So this is the first speech for Joe Biden there as president of the United States. So what's he facing?
Well, look, he's facing a skeptical world right now because what? Biden is supposed to be the anti-Trump, the America is back president. And now the question a lot of world leaders are asking is America really back? Sure, he's a kinder, gentler version of Trump, and he would be himself absolutely appalled at any comparison to Donald Trump, a man who he believes is antithetical to him and his values in every single way possible. That said, the reason Biden's coming under such scrutiny, and the reason we're hearing these unthinkable from Biden's viewpoint comparisons to Trump, is that he is a staunch internationalist. This is a man whose entire political career, and we're going back 40, 50 years, he has been a staunch defender of the UN. He helped in the 90s the UN to keep its funding from the U.S. at a time when it was in threat. This is not a man who, like Donald Trump, sort of campaigned on and ruled as president on an America first agenda, a sort of retrenchment agenda, closing America off from the rest of the world. He is a man who came to the stage as a globalist, saying he wanted to lead. And he said in his inaugural address that, we will not merely lead by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. And it's lines like that which now people are taking a second look at and saying, really, the power of example? What's that example? The haphazard, messy withdrawal from Afghanistan, snubbing a key ally, i.e. France, on the submarine deal, not giving enough COVID vaccines to the rest of the world. From some people's perspective, especially Africa's, hoarding a lot of these vaccines, and even talking about booster shots at this point for very fit, healthy Americans whose immune systems are not compromised. So on all fronts, whether we're talking about the COVID pandemic or Afghanistan or the European strategic policy and even the stance towards China, there are a lot of questions about whether this is a president who matches in deeds his commitment to his allies in words. That's what they're going to be listening for when he gets up on that iconic rostrum at the UN today and makes his speech. He's second out of the starting blocks after Brazil.
Thanks for that, Doug. France 24's Doug Herbert.